Hello everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and this is lesson number 42 and I dive into the wonderful world of the music theory. And today we're going to be talking about bar lines and repeats. And we're going very surface level with this topic, but hopefully we'll be going steady. We'll learn something at least. So far we've been talking about the regular bar line which we use when we want to divide bars and measures like this. Great. It's nice and friendly and it's really useful and it's basically integral to the way we write music. But there are a couple of others. Well, the one I want to talk about today is called the double bar line. The first thing we're going to talk about today is called the double bar line or the double bar. And it looks something like this. So for this I'll draw proper stuff, so you'll have to pardon me while I make sure it looks proper. So I've got stuff, right? Instead of just being like a single line like this, it is like this. So it's one thick line followed by one thin line like this. So this is a double bar line, and what this does is it marks the end of a piece of music, double bar, and this marks the end of a piece of music. As you can see, that's why it ends right after the stuff. So if the music is finished and I want it to finish, instead of just putting a single bar, I put a double bar to mark the end of a piece. And that's all there really is to it. It's a bar used to mark the end of a piece. So whenever a piece finishes, you draw a double bar. So it's once again it's one thick line and that's one thin line towards the left of the thick line, like this. So I wanted to pause the video and soak this in. Yeah, this double. There's not that much to it. That's really what it is. And on a double bar just like this usually only appears at the end of a piece. That's the only reason it should appear. A second is I want to talk about a repeat. Now in music, sometimes you might need to sometimes you want to have a specific part of music repeated. Let's say you want to have that part of the music played again, word to word, the exact same part. So instead of writing that music all over again, so let's say instead of writing that part all over again, you can put a special sign in the middle of the staff which tells you to repeat from the beginning. So let's say you've written up a piece of music, great, and now you want it to repeat from the beginning, or you want it to be played twice or whatever. Instead of writing the entire thing again and wasting paper and resources and time, right? You can put a special marking which tells you to repeat. So once again, you have to pardon me while I draw nice stuff, like nice legible stuff. And you'll be surprised by the use cases this has. It's really quite useful. So and this is so whichever point you want to repeat from the beginning, right? So let's say you played from the start, you started the music at the beginning of the music and you played, and the point at which you want to repeat that beginning part of the music, you put first things first, you put a double bar line. So this is one of the only times the double bar line will appear in the beginning of in the middle of a sheet of music, I mean, not at the end. So this first things first, you put a double bar line, but this itself doesn't tell you anything. What you do then is you put two dots, one on the third space and one on the second space, right? Two dots, and what these two dots tell you, this is the repeat sign. So this entire thing is the repeat sign, and what this tells you to do is repeat from the beginning. It tells you to repeat from the beginning. So if I'm playing I'm playing there's music written here, music written here. The minute I reach this, I go back and repeat from the beginning before moving on to whatever may be written here, right? And yeah, that's how this works. So this means to repeat whatever music from the beginning, right? And sometimes this will mark the end of the music as well, where there's no music after it. So that just means you repeat the entire piece of music, and it's not that great. So you basically repeat from the beginning, and it's just a simple repeat. And it's actually fairly common. You'll find this in many places. Third one is I'm not sure exactly what its formal term is, but I'm just going to call it repeat from. Okay, now this is a regular use case where I want to repeat from the beginning, and imagine you want to repeat from a specific point. Let's say you've played some music, now, and you're playing some more, and now you want to repeat from a certain point. You don't want to go all the way back to the beginning. You want to repeat from a very specific point in the piece of music. You want to go back to a specific point and repeat it. Well, you can also do that with music theory, and the point at which you want to go back to repeat the music from is represented with this kind of a bar line. So this time I draw full. Once again, I'm going to draw neat stuff, so you have to pardon me and take some more time to do it. Okay, the point from you which you want to repeat, which means you want to go back to that point, is marked once again with something similar to a double bar line. So you have a thick line, just like with a double bar line, one thick line, and then you have one thin line as well, but this time this thin line is towards the right. So it's not thick thin, it's thin thick, so to speak. Basically this thin line is towards the left of the thick line, both the repeat side and the double bar. Here it is towards the right. And once again we have two dots on the second and third space, but once again these two dots, right, these two dots are towards the right of the thick line. And let's say you have a repeat sign further on the piece somewhere here, right? Let me make this line a bit thicker so it's clear what I'm talking about. These two dots. So what this means is that, so you will find this in quite a bit of pieces, and now let me explain. This might be a bit confusing, but what it means is that you are playing some music, great, you don't pay any credence to this and you keep on moving. Then when you reach the repeat sign, normally you would go back to the beginning, but whenever this sign exists somewhere in the music, instead of going back to the beginning, you go back to repeat from this sign, from the nearest this sign, right? So instead of playing all the music from the beginning again, you're playing, and you repeat only from here. So you only play the music in between these two bar lines. You repeat only that music. And this is saying, basically, this is showing you the point to repeat from. Great. So yeah, that's really all that there is to it. And in a piece of music which has multiple of these, you always go back to the nearest repeat from sign. So let's say I'm repeating, and let's say there was some repeats and repeat signs before, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm repeating, I repeat from the nearest repeat from sign. I go back and repeat from the nearest repeat from sign. So once again, this is a slightly confusing concept, so I'll reiterate it once again. That music, I'm reading it, and this doesn't make me stop or anything or do anything. I'm reading it, I reach the repeat sign, and instead of repeating from the beginning, I just repeat the piece. I go back to this point and repeat from here. I only repeat the music that's in between these two bar lines. That's really all that there is to it. The final one I want to mention, well, and I encourage you to take a screenshot of this because it's quite important, right? The final one I want to mention is you'll sometimes find, I don't know, I don't have a name for this. I'm just going to, I don't think this one has a name, but sometimes you'll find this. And I'll draw neat stuff once again. This is very rare. You don't see this all that much often, but it does exist, and I think it's good that you know about it, right? Sometimes you will see a line like this. So you can see how we've gone from just one single line into this behemoth. Now what does this mean? Well, it's actually just a combination of these two. So this is a point when you want to mark one point in the music that says, hey, so let me give you a full context. So let's say, and see, this is quite intricate, might as well let the music at this point. But so you're reading music, and at this point you want to repeat the music from this point. So you go and repeat from this music, and then you keep on going, and then you want to repeat music from the same point. So at one point you're repeating the music at that point, another point you're repeating the music from that point. It's kind of difficult to visualize, but maybe I give you an example. So imagine, so the way you would play this is whatever music is here, you're playing this music, then you're playing the music that comes here. And you repeat the music that comes here. You play the music between these two bar lines again. Why? Because this is telling you to repeat from the nearest that. Then you continue playing this music, whatever is in between these two bar lines. Then you repeat only the music between this bar line and that bar line, because it also has this in it. So it's when you want to repeat at that point, which means at that point you want to go back and repeat at one point in the music, and you want to repeat from that point, and then you go back to this point and repeat later on in the music. You don't have to, if you don't understand this one, there's no problem. You're not gonna find it much often in music anyways. But these three, I think it's good. It's important that you understand. So let's just recap. A double bar, which is just a line like this, a thick line and a thin line on a staff, mark the end of a piece. So it means at the end of music you'll always find a double bar. A double a double bar line can exist in the middle of a piece, but only when it's accompanied by two dots on the second and third space. And what that's telling you is to repeat from the beginning. Yeah, or from the nearest repeat from sign. So just basically it's the repeat. Repeat from the beginning. Okay, no, it tells you to repeat from the nearest repeat from sign, or if there's no repeat from sign, repeat from the beginning. Okay, and then there's the repeat from sign. That means that whenever you see a repeat sign, you are supposed not repeat from the beginning, but from a specific point in the music. And then you have the double, I don't know what to call this, where it's the same point we're repeating at. That means you reach this point and you go back and repeat from another point, and it's the same point in this later on in the music. It's the same point you want to repeat from. That means you reach some other point in the music and you go back to this very point and repeat that music. Anyways, I know it can get a bit confusing, but this is the convention. If you didn't understand, I encourage you to pause the video and rewatch it, rewind it and rewatch it just to get a better understanding. That being said, this is all I really wanted to cover in this lesson. I know it's kind of confusing, but I really couldn't think of a better way to teach it. That being said, thank you very much. We may do some examples with this to make it more clear. And that being said, I hope you found this lesson valuable. I hope you gained some knowledge from it. I hope you found it relatively enjoyable. And I'm wishing you a wonderful rest of the day. And see you next lesson. Bye.